They taught you to be nice, to smile when you're hurting, to stay quiet when something feels wrong, to agree, to obey, to not disturb the peace. And maybe you believed them. Maybe you thought that if you were kind enough, soft enough, patient enough, the world would finally love you. But here you are, tired, small, full of silent rage. Have you ever asked yourself why? Why do you feel so powerless even when you're doing everything right? Why do people talk over you? Why do they ignore your boundaries, your pain, your voice, and still call you good? Let's stop lying to ourselves. The world does not reward people who are harmless. It controls them, it bends them, it uses them, and calls it love, because harmlessness is easy to break, easy to shape, easy to silence. And Carl Jung knew it. He didn't tell you to be dangerous because he wanted you to be cruel. He told you to be dangerous so that you could protect your soul. You see, you weren't born afraid. That fear was taught. Someone once punished your fire. Someone made you feel ashamed of your anger, your strength, your no, and from that day on you wore a mask. The good one, the polite one, the one who never causes problems. And it worked, for a while. You survived, but survival is not living. There's a shadow in you, a voice that whispers, "I'm tired of pretending." You try to push it down, but it keeps rising. You think it's wrong. You think it's dangerous, and you're right. It is, but not to you, to those who benefit from your silence. The child who was told to sit still, the teenager who swallowed his voice, the adult who smiles at disrespect just to avoid a fight. That isn't peace. That's a soul in hiding. You weren't born weak. You were trained to be small, trained to believe that being liked is more important than being free. But strength isn't evil. Rage isn't bad. Power isn't corruption. What matters is where it's pointed. You've been taught that power means hurting others, but real power is what stops you from being hurt again. Strength is saying no more. Strength is walking away. Strength is choosing your own truth, even when it scares everyone around you. But first you must stop running from your own fire, because the more you hide it, the more it burns you from the inside. This is why you suffer, not because you are broken, but because you are holding back something that was never meant to be buried. Ask yourself, who are you when you stop pleasing everyone? Who are you when you stop apologizing for taking up space? Who are you without the smile that hides your pain? You've mistaken self-abandonment for virtue. You've mistaken fear for kindness. You've called yourself gentle, when really, you were just scared to say no. But here's the truth you've avoided. You are allowed to have teeth. You are allowed to say that's enough. You are allowed to be feared, not because you're cruel, but because you know your worth. Until you learn to be dangerous, you will keep giving your life away to those who aren't afraid to take it. This is not a call to violence. This is a call to awaken, to stop letting others decide what you deserve, to stop calling your silence strength, to stop calling your fear love. Carl Jung once said, "If you do not become the master of your own shadow, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate." Don't let your fate be written by fear. It's time to meet the part of you that you've buried, the one who fights, who roars, who protects, your shadow. And in the next segment, that's exactly where we're going, to the place where your fear lives, to the fire beneath your shame, to the beginning of your real power. So here we are, at the doorway you've avoided your whole life, the one marked shadow. Not the darkness outside you, but the one inside. Let's be clear, the shadow is not evil. It's not the villain of your story. It's the part of you that you were never allowed to show, the part you were told to kill. Your anger, your jealousy, your hunger, your wildness, your raw, untamed truth. It's all still there, buried under shame, guilt, fear. And even though you pretend to be fine, it shows. It leaks through your voice. It explodes in quiet moments. It whispers in your loneliness. It sabotages everything you think you want. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's not a metaphor, that's a warning. Your shadow is alive, and if you keep ignoring it, it will rule you. Think about it. That time you snapped and didn't know why. That relationship you ruined and blamed on someone else. That job you quit too soon. That conversation you avoided. That fake smile that made you sick. That wasn't weakness. That was your shadow fighting to be seen. You see, the shadow doesn't knock, it crashes. It doesn't ask, it takes. It doesn't care about politeness or timing or peace. It cares about truth, and it will destroy your illusions to get your attention. But you've been taught to fear it, to call it wrong, to label it toxic. So instead of facing it, you run. You numb it with distractions. You drown it in people. You silence it with self-help phrases and fake gratitude. But none of that works, because the shadow doesn't want to be fixed. It wants to be heard. What if your anxiety isn't the problem? What if your anger isn't a flaw? What if your sadness is the soul's rebellion against the fake life you've been living? Let that sink in. Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just full of feelings that have been locked away too long, and they're pounding on the walls, begging to be let out. Jung didn't tell you to destroy the shadow. He told you to integrate it, to bring it home, to understand that the very things you fear inside yourself might be the key to your strength. That rage you hide, it's your boundary waiting to be spoken. That sadness you avoid, it's your compass showing you what's missing. That jealousy you hate, it's your hunger for a life you've been too afraid to claim. But here's the hardest truth. To integrate the shadow, you have to stop pretending. Stop playing small. Stop saying I'm okay when you're not. Stop wearing masks to make other people comfortable. It's going to hurt. It will shake your sense of who you are. You will feel like you're dying. And in a way you are. The version of you that was built on fear has to go. Because power doesn't come from perfection. It comes from wholeness, from owning your darkness without shame, from learning to stand in the fire of your own truth. You've been told that if you accept your shadow, you'll become dangerous. They were right. But here's what they didn't say. That danger can be holy. It can be sharp and clean and full of love. It can protect what matters. It can guard the soul. It can say no with such clarity that no one ever tries again. This is not about hurting people. It's about never letting anyone hurt you the same way twice. You're not here to be a saint. You're here to be whole, to be a person who can look in the mirror and not flinch at what they see. And once you do that, once you stand eye to eye with the part of yourself you feared the most, you start to change. You stop begging for approval. You stop shrinking to fit. You stop playing nice when your soul is on fire. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, choose differently. Because now the one thing no one can take from you is you. Now that you've met your shadow, what do you do with it? This is where the real transformation begins. Because self-knowledge without action is just another disguise, and it's time to act. You've seen your shadow now. You've stood in front of it, felt its weight, heard its voice, and maybe for the first time in your life, you didn't run. That moment matters, because awareness is not healing, but it is the door to it. Now the real question appears. What will you do with what you know? Most people stop here. They learn the truth, feel the fire, and then go back to pretending. It's easier to hide, easier to say, I understand now, and do nothing. But you didn't come this far just to understand. You came to change. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But you're not just here to face it. You're here to rebuild it, piece by honest piece. Let's speak plainly. To live in your power, you must begin to act like someone who knows their worth. And that means breaking the habits that have kept you small. Say the thing you're scared to say. Set the boundary you've been avoiding. Walk away from what keeps you numb. Tell the truth, even if your voice shakes. Stand up for yourself, even if no one claps. Because there is no real strength without risk, no growth without discomfort, no freedom without loss. You will lose people. Let me say that now clearly, so there's no confusion. When you stop being easy to control, those who fed on your silence will try to guilt you back into it. They will say you've changed, that you've become cold, selfish, rude. Let them speak. They are not mourning your cruelty. They are mourning the death of their control over you. That isn't your burden to carry anymore. You were not born to be everyone's comfort. You were born to be whole, and whole people make others uncomfortable because they are no longer willing to be used. But it's not just about walking away from others. It's about walking toward yourself, choosing what nourishes you, creating a life that feels like truth, taking action, not out of fear but out of self-respect. Look at your daily life. Where do you still betray yourself? In the job you hate, the relationship that drains you, the fake smiles, the constant yeses. You don't need more time, you need more truth, because the truth has always been waiting for you to stop hiding. You are allowed to be firm. You are allowed to say, I don't want this anymore. You are allowed to start over. And yes, you'll make mistakes. You'll fall. You'll second guess yourself. But falling with your eyes open is better than standing still in denial. Action is how the soul wakes up, how the unconscious becomes conscious, how power becomes real. This is the sacred fire. Not the fire that burns everything in anger, but the fire that melts the mask off your face and shows the world who you are underneath. And that person is not soft and small. They are sharp, they are honest, they are dangerous in the most holy way, not because they seek control, but because they can no longer be controlled. This kind of strength cannot be taught. It must be earned through confrontation, through silence, through choices that feel like dying, but are actually a return to life. So here's the call. Don't just feel this, live it. Don't just nod in agreement, move differently. Don't just speak about change, become it. The world is not changed by the loudest person in the room. It's changed by the quiet one who finally says, not anymore. You may still be afraid. That's okay. You're not here to be fearless. You're here to be brave enough to act, even with fear at your side, because only through action does your shadow become your ally. Only through choice do you reclaim your soul. You've seen the truth. You've touched the fire. Now comes the question that only you can answer. What kind of life will you build with this power? There's a silence that comes after awakening, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of space, the silence that comes after the storm, when everything false has fallen away. And now you stand here, stripped, changed, different from who you were before. You've seen your shadow. You've stopped running. You've begun to act. And now you must decide, what kind of life will you build from this new place? This is the moment most people fear. Not the breakdown, not the truth, but the freedom that comes afterward. Because freedom demands responsibility. It asks, now that you are no longer asleep, what will you do with your eyes wide open? It's easier to go back, to pretend this awakening didn't happen, to slide quietly into the old routine. But you know too much now. You've seen behind the curtain. You've felt what it means to take yourself seriously. And because of that, you cannot return. Carl Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming whole, is not the end. It is the beginning. You are not here to be a better version of your old self. You are here to become someone new, someone honest, someone unshakable, someone who has looked at their pain and decided it would no longer define them. And that kind of person moves through life differently. They stop needing permission. They stop living on autopilot. They stop saying yes to things that shrink their spirit. They speak less, but when they do, it cuts through the noise. They take up space, not to dominate, but to simply exist fully. They choose their peace, not the peace that comes from avoiding conflict, but the peace that comes from choosing truth, no matter what it costs. And they become dangerous, not in the way that harms, but in the way that frees. You've seen this kind of person before. When they walk into a room, you feel it. They're not loud, they're not flashy, but there's something in them that says, I am not to be controlled. That power, it's not out of reach. It's in you. It always was. But it only rises when you stop pretending. It only lives when you stop pleasing. It only grows when you choose yourself over your fear. This isn't a one-time shift. It's a daily practice, to speak with truth, to walk with clarity, to love with boundaries, to show up even when it's hard. Every day you will be tempted to forget, to go back, to stay quiet. But each time you choose truth, each time you act with courage, each time you hold your ground, you build a new self. You create a life with a spine. Because you finally know this. You were never meant to be ruled by fear. You were never meant to beg for scraps of respect. You were never meant to play small just to fit in. You were meant to burn, to speak, to stand, to walk through this world as someone who remembers who they are. Carl Jung said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And now you know, that person is not harmless. That person is not controlled. That person is not asleep. That person is dangerous because they are free. So here's the final question. What will you do with that freedom? You don't need to answer with words. Answer with your life. Let the way you move, speak, choose and love be the loudest answer of all. Because the world doesn't need more nice people. It needs more whole people, more awake people, more dangerous souls who refuse to be controlled. That is your task now, to live like someone who finally came home. You've done the hardest part. You stayed through the fire. Now go and live like it meant something.